Music and Booze with Mo is produced and distributed by EatsDrinksTV, a service of the Center for Culinary Culture, home of the Cocktail Collection, and First Reel Entertainment, and is available wherever fine podcasts can be heard. The Center for Culinary Culture, telling the story of food and drink, one taste at a time. Welcome to Music and Booze with Mo. I'm Mo Herms, and I've worked in the music industry most of my life, so have met some pretty amazing musicians over the years. I also love a good cocktail, and I've encountered some really interesting bartenders as well. It seems that there's a lot of crossover, so when I can, I like to talk to musicians and bartenders about music and booze. Join us at the bar, won't you? Music and Booze with Mo is brought to you by The Mermaid, an underwater oasis with tropical cocktails and more, located in the Little Tokyo district of downtown LA. Follow The Mermaid on Instagram at TheMermaidLA for a complete listing of hours, events, and more. The Mermaid LA is proudly woman and Latin owned, and you can visit them at 428 East 2nd Street in downtown Los Angeles. Today I am joined by Alexandra Kuechler Caffall, who can be found at a relatively new spot in Portland, Oregon called Too Soon. And she's bounced around from the New York scene to come back to her hometown of Portland and take part in Too Soon. She came back for several reasons, but she's not only bounced around in the bar world, but she has been involved in music in many ways, some perhaps unexpected. So we sat down and we talked about worship and opera and directing and the philosophies behind music and sound and how humans interact with it and integrate it and all sorts of smarty pants stuff. So I recommend you put on your thinking cap, pour yourself a little shot of something that you can sip on for a while, and enjoy.
Okay. Well, I'm Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Right now, I make drinks at a bar called Too Soon in Portland, Oregon. I'm originally from Portland. I moved to New York to go to graduate school for theater in 2007, six or seven. And I was there, did my master's degree in theater, directing for the stage and opera, and then worked in that for a long time, and then also started more directly working in hospitality, both as as many people do, as a kind of a means to manage my remain in New York, right? And then I dipped around and then had the good fortune of landing at Fort Defiance, which is the place that I primarily worked until.
That's like a modern legendary spot, really.
It was a real it was a real special place to be. I guess I didn't know when I first landed there, and I, in the same way that I think the kind of people that were coming through there, or even the people that were working there, we didn't know where things were going at that point. It was 2000 and I don't know, 12, 11 or whatever, and being able to be just wholly naive in a lot of ways in that space, and to be comfortable with that in a way that sometimes I feel even people in the industry now that are first entering it, because of how democratized information is, revealing your naivety is oftentimes approached with caution, especially with like young bartenders. There's a kind of an emphasis on seeming as though projecting your level of knowledge. And I didn't do that because I didn't have it, and it didn't, and the industry wasn't functioning like that yet, right? We didn't like, and so because of who St. John was and because of his peers, and I got to kind of just hang out with people that either my peers that were a little further along than me, or people that now we kind of see as these kind of hooks that first kind of revival wave is
that
built
wave.
on, that I just kind of got to be like, I don't know, tell me about it. They're like, this drink's interesting. And I just stayed there and loved it, while also like balancing my work in theater. I worked with off Broadway and other kind of more, for lack of a better term, avant-garde companies that also were part of the international touring circuit, which is a pretty specific niche of devised or like company developed projects. So I worked as an associate with those a lot.
Wow.
And kind of toggled back and forth between the two. And I think that for me, the turning point for my relationship with bars, because at that point, my relationship with hospitality and bartending and things was kind of something I loved, but something that was managed around what I perceived as my primary objective, which was engaging with performing arts. And and I left Fort Defiance and had my son in 2019. And then not long after that, I had to stay home with him. And when he was very little, 4 or 5 months old. And then eventually my partner and I, without having significant jobs in New York, moved back to Oregon, where we had better support, where our families were, where I felt more safe, more comfortable, with a very, very little baby. And I think that the thing that kind of turned things for me is I remember sitting in, relatively rural Oregon, where my family lives, where we were living with them at the time, and not sitting around, at 2 o'clock in the morning, nursing him, thinking, gosh, I wish I was at a play right now. I was sitting there being like, gosh, I wish I was weeded right now. Like the thing I long for the most in this kind of evacuation that I felt from New York, from culture, from people, from creativity, wasn't the thing that I thought was most important to me. It was this other thing that I just was just sick, wishing I could be back there, just in a room with a bunch of people,
just working really hard, and just drink after drink after drink, just getting it out there.
And I think that my cat's gonna be here.
Oh, I love it when cats show up. Cats are my favorite things.
She's here. Totally good. She'll lay down. And I think that I longed for that experience and that community much more than the theater community.
That's interesting.
And I also realized that I had been really, like many women or birthing parents, when they, or even just parents, when that additional human is added to your life, it's such a time of reflection and consideration. And you do end up feeling that there's many yous suddenly. There's like the parent you, there's the work facing you, there's the friend facing you. And I realized that I had already kind of been doing that in this kind of fractured human that was my hospitality facing person, that oftentimes guarded that person against the theater stuff, right? I didn't necessarily want these professional theater individuals to know that I was slogging during brunch on the weekends. I wanted to think that I somehow impossibly in New York was able to pay all my bills by developing theater in garages, right? But then on the other end of it, I didn't want the hospitality people to think that I somehow didn't value the work that I was doing there. So I kind of like kept them just very separate. And I didn't realize until there was distance on it how wholly connected my interest in both those things was, and that how similar the project of creating a bar, curating the space, the language, the the goal of the entire task is that why did I keep those separate? And once I kind of gave myself
Mhm.
permission to put them together, all these kind of thoughts that I thought were um only one or the other started to kind of mix, and there was like almost like a mental freedom to start you know, mixing the soup.
You know,
And yeah.
what you're saying is I've talked to folks over the years, people who've been in bands and this sort of thing. I know you have a background when we had chatted
Yeah.
earlier
Yeah.
that is there it's stage, but it's like singing. There's vocal, there's all this kind of
Yes.
stuff, being on stage and performing and also obviously leading performers, directing
Mm-hmm.
and all of this. When I've spoken with folks over the years, a lot of times those who've been in bands say, well, being behind a bar is sometimes like being in a band
Yeah.
because you're interacting with people and you learn everyone's rhythms
Yeah.
there, how things are set up, and you
Yeah.
get into a mode to make everything happen. And you are still on stage because there are people sitting there watching you make the drinks. They expect certain kinds of conversation from you. There are things like
Yeah.
this. So you are still kind of performing. And what you're saying is relating to me anyway. It sounds very similar. So is that basically when you opened your brain and let these two things come together where you're like, oh, I'm still on stage or
Yeah. I mean, there's science to it too, right? There is not anecdotes, but like true science around the
oh
idea that
yeah.
when choruses sing together, oftentimes their heartbeats sync, right? That like there's this kind of idea that bodies, when they're in a certain rhythm,
Hmm.
that as the animals that we are,
Well,
we start to kind of come together and move within that same
we
pace,
become
that
it's a
same
herd the
breathing.
herd thing happens, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that how that and that is also like a delicate thing, right? You know the experience, I'm sure, of like being in a place where it's just too much, right? You
Yeah.
can feel that there's too much happening, or the
Hmm.
music is too fast or too loud or not enough, right? You're
Hmm.
understimulated. And then when we're able to kind of find that sweet spot that is oftentimes like haunted,
Hmm.
like prey in theater, right? That's why we rehearse the way we do and do things over and over and over again. And there's in as a performer, performers know like that hunting, that kind of like
Hmm.
those like connecting moments where you're like, wow, that line really landed, and then trying to figure out how to get back there again on another day. That there's this kind of the phenomenology, like the specialness of it
Hmm.
is so connected with the fact that we're just like weird animals, that if we all just hear a drum at the same time, that we might all just
We all have the
tap
same
tap our
reaction.
toes,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And that how fast we tap our toes is sometimes the responsibility of the person curating that.
Yeah,
It's
well,
always, the
you've been
case.
performing. I From what you told me, you've been performing. Did you start as a singer?
No, I've always
No,
been. I
always been
started.
theater.
Well, yeah, I started in music,
Hmm.
honestly, and
Yeah.
and I, um, I have the thing that I had mentioned is that
Uh-huh.
I started as a musician. I played as many instruments as I could get my hands on, and like many American children of a certain
Yeah.
age, I got very good at playing my instruments by playing them in worship band, right? The
Hmm.
amount of time that a person in a contemporary American church gets to clock touching an instrument is far outstrips.
I have said this many times. I was sent to Catholic school as a kid, and
Yeah,
so since I had to go to mass 2 days a week, I joined the choir.
yeah,
Why did I join the choir? Because I could sit upstairs, no one was really looking at me, and I could
yeah,
still whisper to my friends and not really pay as much attention to mass.
yeah,
But we were still singing. We knew all the cues, we knew everything. And
yeah,
as soon as I was done with that, I've barely been to church since. But if you send me to a Catholic mass or something, I stand up and sit down and know all the things and know all the songs. It's all still there, right?
yeah.
But yeah, it was an opportunity. And it was fun. It was fun to get to
Yeah.
be there and
Yeah.
sing,
I
you
I
know?
mean, I loved it. I was a part of a, not because my family is, I just clear.
Mhm.
If my mother's listening, she did not. No, no one, my family is chill. No one told me to go head
Like,
first into the
into
Pentecostal
the
church. I chose that. And I think that if we keep talking about my interest in the experience of people, my
Mhm.
attraction to these kind of um gatherings, the
Yeah.
feeling of being in a room full, I
Well, yeah.
think that clearly was an early, like that it
You
turned
know what it
something in
is?
me.
It's the third space, which is something we
Yes,
always talk about in the hospitality industry because
yes,
people need that space that's not home and that's not work, but where they can have
Mm-hmm.
community. Is it a cafe?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a church? Is it a bar?
Yeah.
Where is
Yeah.
that place?
And going back to the kind of idea that, a beat can
Hmm.
change the attention, the orientation, the heartbeats of the people in the
Hmm.
room, right? When you are I initially went to undergraduate school assuming I was going to grow up to be a worship leader, to lead
Hmm.
the people in the worship
Hmm.
of God and of the Christian God. And I loved that, but I also um, became increasingly aware at that point of the thing we're talking about, which is, like a chord, a
Hmm.
repeated word, the
Hmm.
placement of a I don't know, of a
It's
moment
the
of
note.
prayer,
Hmm.
reflection can turn the entire room, right? I remember very specifically one day standing on stage and this basically being the like time where it started to completely, the first thread was pulled, the beginning of the end
Mm.
was like, oh, like being up there leading worship, looking out and being like, oh no, like, did I do this? Did I? Was this me? Because I picked these songs, right?
Mhm.
And I think about this all the time while I'm doing it. Like, oh, let's sing that again. I why do I need and why do I question it when their hands aren't raised? Why do I judge the quality of a worship service if it's God every time, right? It shouldn't
Mhm.
it just always be good to go if he's in
Mhm.
charge of this, or if I'm the person picking the songs, deciding how long they go, how loud, when, where they're placed, and that kind of, I don't know.
Well, it sounds like that unraveling is what started sending you towards directing,
Yes,
but not
definitely.
necessarily church.
Right. But that ecstasy in a room,
Yes. Hmm.
right, is all over the place and it's studied, right, in like
Yeah.
anthropological ways. But
Yeah.
like my knowledge of that also makes me incredibly cautious of it now, right? That I
Interesting. Yeah.
don't
Of the power of
necessarily,
it, you mean? Yeah.
definitely. And especially in directing too, I was always kind of trying to um and worked with directors that would worked in more like kind of durational pieces that had a certain kind of withholding to them,
Hmm.
that would kind of lean into the presumed phenomenology of a space and be like, people expect this, right? When you go
Hmm.
to the theater, it's going to be like that, and then that, and then that. And
Yeah.
how much can we then, like, in a sense of withholding or a sense of that that these structures are not um, innate, that they are prescribed.
Hmm.
They're expected, but they can be adjusted. And yeah, so I brought so much of that to my directing. And I used to say to people like, oh, I direct because I used to want to be a worship leader. And now I say I like playing restaurant because I used to direct because I used to be a worship leader.
Yeah. But I can see the through lines on that.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I think
actually,
so.
what you're saying too, because you said you also directed opera,
Yeah.
that makes so much sense too, because opera is emotions. It's
Mm-hmm.
channeling emotions and creating a mood in a
Mm-hmm.
huge room with voice, with
Mm-hmm.
music. And so
Mm-hmm.
when did you realize that you were into opera? Oh, that's not
Yeah.
you're too many kids that jump up and go into opera and everything,
Yeah.
but
I've
it
ended
was
up
playing in the house at my place all the time when I was a
right.
kid. So I was just used to it being in the background. My mom was so into opera.
I love that. I love that. Like opera, like standard songbook opera, like
Um,
the biggies, or
She like, well, she loved her Maria Callas.
yeah.
My mom was Latin, so and she grew up going to Catholic school, speaking
Mm-hmm.
Latin, so she understood a lot of that and knew Italian. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't really, honestly, I was like, ugh, opera. Oh, this is old people music. I was tuning out of it, but it was always on. So I'll
Yeah.
hear pieces that I know that are classic, old, I'm sure songbook essentially, the ones everyone has to do at some point. Nothing too experimental in there.
Yeah.
But still
Yeah.
beautiful. And I always loved the women's voices more than the men. That was just me.
Mm-hmm.
As I got older, then I appreciated men's voices too, what they could all do. But I think because I love to sing in the shower. So I'm like, if you could hit those notes. So I was
I
kind of
know.
hearing it,
Yeah,
It was just,
if you could be up there with the birds
oh,
sometimes. I mean, an
right.
opera singer, they're athletes. They
Oh,
are
yeah. I mean,
incredible
yeah.
humans. The things that they can do, the way that opera functions
Hmm.
as a rehearsal act is actually reminds me much more of uh honestly like bars in a way. Like
Yeah.
you rehearse so much before you even end up in the rehearsal room. There's so much prep. Everyone's doing so much prep separately, right?
That's interesting.
The music is kind of happening. You know, whatever the music, like whoever the orchestration is kind of happening
Hmm.
on their own kind of rehearsal schedule. The singers
Yeah.
are oftentimes spending significant time with their vocal coaches ahead
Hmm.
of, they know years in advance sometimes what projects are
Hmm.
going to be a part of. And then the director on the directorial end and on the design end, you do an enormous amount of work at the front end.
Interesting.
Very different than a lot of stage, more similar to maybe like Broadway or things like that. But even
Hmm.
those have workshops. You're not
Hmm.
workshopping anything in an opera rehearsal room. You
Hmm.
have to know when you come in there that like more or less exactly your plan, right? And
Wow.
it is terrifying compared to like what would be considered to be like kind of the standard
Hmm.
American, you know, kitchen sink uh theater where you're like, let's run it again, and like let's just,
Hmm.
I feel like you know, let's think a little bit more about how you're going to keep her in the room. Like you can't say that
Yeah.
to a
Yeah.
singer unless you have that kind of relationship. That's not work for the room.
Yeah.
um that's side work, that's somewhere else. The work in the room is about all these kind of separate minds
Yeah.
that have worked with a kind of a guidepost around them, but that have
Hmm.
worked with incredible rigor. Everything, the rigor involved in that kind of performance is
Yeah.
so high. It's so high, and the skill is so high
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it does feel kind of like, I guess, not to drag theater, but like you're in the Olympics in some way. Like there's
Well,
just, it's just so like so
I know
yeah.
one person who was a traveling opera singer. He was with a touring company. And I remember asking him why he didn't consider or why he didn't continue pursuing it. And he said, I wasn't built for it. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he said, physically, he wasn't built to go to the level that he wanted to go. And that's why
Yeah.
he stopped.
Yeah,
And
you hear people say that. I've heard singers say that too. I have a friend
it,
here that says that, where he's like, I loved it, but I couldn't keep going.
yeah, I'd not considered that before, but
Wow.
I'm aware from, what you say, like even if I'm just singing along with someone in my car, if there's someone who can hold a note a long time, hit this here, and I'm like, how do they do this without losing their breath? They literally hold this note and then
Hmm.
they can swoop down here and do another line. And I'm not sure where they were breathing. Where did that come
Yeah.
into
Un solo istante I palpiti del suo bel cor sentir I miei sospiri confondere per poco a suoi sospir.
I was doing, I found myself enjoying unexpectedly early music,
it?
opera,
Hmm.
Baroque things
Hmm.
more than other stuff for uh, kind of the intellectual gaming reasons of it.
Yeah, yeah.
There's holes that need to be plugged in those. Oftentimes they're missing. Yeah, they're like, you know, they're like proto pieces.
Yeah.
There's something honestly like a little bit punk about them in the sense that they're just kind of like figuring it out.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And like just kind of running around in the dark of these kind of new structures and
Hmm.
motifs, and they oftentimes don't have the formalized uh pieces that we would expect
Hmm.
from like a Verdi or something. They don't have like transition music. So
Hmm.
then you have to work with maestro to kind of, or maybe they already have their solution for it. Like
Hmm.
this is my fourth Orfeo. I'm like I've always used this for the transition. It's from another Monteverdi piece. It wasn't an opera. We just have some chamber music and it fits perfectly with us because he wrote it probably around the same time. And so we're gonna that and put
We're
it
just gonna do
here.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just kind of leans into and I just kind of like that it has that the early music has like kind of another ask to it. And it also like kind of leans into that idea of being in a room full of people that are incredibly knowledgeable and incredibly that joy of that kind of shared skill level.
Yeah.
The kind of relative calm of knowing that everybody
Is
wants to
on
be there and
everyone's on the same trip.
Yeah, or
right
everyone
now,
is
as
at
it were.
least, yes, everyone's on the same, and everybody is thinking about this so hard. So hard. And they're bringing everything they have to this. It's so lovely. And I worked on some early music. I mean, I'm sorry, worked on some new opera.
Yeah.
With a couple of festivals. I worked for director Daniel Fish, and I worked for him the most of my time as an associate. And most of the projects that I look back on and think of with the most kind of like warmth and pride and appreciation are the ones I did with him. We did 2 operas with Beth Morrison Projects, which is a really amazing group in New York that develops new
that's incredible
work. And those were also incredibly demanding, and it's lovely that those also kind of that company functions on the kind of touring circuit as well. So oftentimes those shows have additional life beyond a production, which is really nice about those kinds of groups. It is almost kind of like to draw it back to bars. It reminds me of the like pop-up culture right now that happens a lot. So we think about it this way: in theater or in opera or in performing arts, dance, oftentimes in order to see a show by a company, you have to go there to see it, right?
Yeah.
And then now we have things like Broadway Across America, where if you can't get to New York to go and see
there'll be a touring
Hamilton
production
on stage, you can cross your fingers that in the next 3 or 4 years it will pass through your town. It wasn't always like that. There's also the international circuit that functions like that, where there's festivals like Red Cat in LA or On the Boards up in Seattle. There's Under the Radar in New York. There's the Walker has a winter new theater, new opera, new dance festival. And they bring companies from all over the world, and it gives you the chance, similar to when you go to BCB or Tales, where you weren't expecting to get to ever have a drink
made by this person.
We're like bar with shapes for a name, right? You were like, I can't get there. I have to work on the weekends, right? But then thank God that somebody created essentially a festival situation where you can have access to that experience, and it kind of lowers the threshold of privilege. It's expensive, but it creates a community that's able to more wholly experience each other without having to be able to jet set around.
Do you still get to work in music today? Are you currently, or are you more about the hospitality right now?
No, I don't. I play music with my son on piano.
Yay!
He's very little, so that's really it right now. That's musical. The only kind of music that I am involved in is in the bar, honestly.
Making playlists in the bar.
I love making playlists, dude. I love it.
So what is the mood you're creating at the bar?
Well, it is
because I mean we've talked very much about that whole space and creating moods and all this, but bar is a little bit of a different animal. Folks that come in, sometimes it's what you want, sometimes it's not what you don't want, but I find that you can manipulate people into learning and moods and stuff.
Agreed.
Right?
I mean, ultimately to get, I don't know. A playlist in a bar it's a kind of architecture you can't see, right? It is like as much a part of the space as, what the seating's like, right? What the lighting is like. It's not something you can it's something you can feel, right? When you're in a space. It's something that that also has something to do with, bars aren't neutral spaces. And they can orient some bodies when they come into it, and they can be disorienting for others. And the way that it sounds in there has I think has a significant impact on it, whether people realize it or not. And not just about the volume, right? Which is actually, I think, a lower factor than what songs are selected. And it takes some experience in a space, in a bar, in a specific space, to try and understand how you want those bodies oriented in the way they're listening and the way they're interacting with the environment. I think that, I didn't make the initial, trying to go back to how we got where we are. There was an initial playlist that was put together by Nick and Seth at Too Soon, and another playlist that was kind of brought in by another one of our coworkers, Brennan, they were on pretty heavy rotation early on. And I think that through those playlists, we learned a lot about what is right, or what is correct for the kind of space that we try to keep. I think that a big part of Too Soon is about inclusivity. It's about hospitality being like a refusal of exclusion, like the idea of joy being, in a way, resistance, that there is something nostalgic about the kind of music we play. But there's also forward motion to it, both in the way that the BPM that we select, I kind of keep when I'm making playlists, I keep a lid on it. I won't go over 120.
Okay.
And anything above that, I feel is too,
it's gonna be too just,
well, yeah, it's redundant to the space, right? So it's already dark. It's already feels vaguely clubby.
Yeah, I was gonna say, tell me about Too Soon, because I've never been. I've just heard it's a wonderful spot, but I don't know that much about it.
Sure,
so tell me about the space, and then
it's a baby. Yeah, it's a baby bar. It's been open for about a year and a half now.
Right?
We'll be 2 years. We'll be 2 in this coming January.
And have you been there since it opened up?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we've all been there, and we've only added to our family since then. And it is Nick built a program that is really connected with his roots. He also comes from New York, and he worked in the Milk and Honey family, which I was more in the South Brooklyn family. So I never really got to be a part of those programs, but I was very familiar with them, of course. And had many drinks in them. And so we do a menu of our own, which has kind of signature cocktails that are things that we're enjoying, things we want to do that are original to our space, to our bartenders, to our group. And then we also offer a classics menu, which is it's not like there's Maurice's and Manhattans on there. It's more like neoclassic leaning, and it digs into the Milk and Honey catalog and kind of tries to find those kind of very cool drinks that were first coming around when the the cousins of the paper plane, when those polyfuels of bitter, strong, sour, sweet were kind of people just looking at the back bar and being just mixing that kind of world of that kind of excitement in those classics that we keep on the menu, air quotes. And then we have a highball menu that we really love playing with, and that we have one of those cute little expensive
highball machine with the real tight bubbles.
With very serious serious carbonation, and we get to play with that. And we also, I think one of the main things that we have found, like the main cultural kind of thing that we found ourselves in, is that we bring a lot of, I think we're all of us collectively are kind of fatigued with a feeling of judgment about what people should or should not be drinking. And by the way our bartender's choice kind of situation functions, by the kind of expansiveness of our menu, that there is a pretty hard, we're not going to roll our eyes. We're done rolling our eyes at lemon drops. We're done judging people for just wanting to drink what they want to drink. Like that time is over. And that if you want to come in there and drink a drink, like it's not my job. It's like not gatekeeping bar because of my opinions. Like that's lame. Like let's not do that. I will very happily bring over a candle for you and hold your phone so you can get a good selfie. It's fine. Do it. Why do I care? Right? It's not my problem. And like, I think that that's a big part of our identity, is that we also kind of
just let people be.
And our only time that we get concerned sometimes is when we feel like people aren't letting themselves enjoy themselves. That sometimes there's even like a presumed barrier sometimes, that I don't know what's going on in someone's life, but that they maybe have preconceived ideas about the rules of cocktail bars, of these kinds of spaces, and trying to instruct and teach people how to relax, to find something joyful. You have some experience. You have a time in like tropical drinks or tiki drinks. We have a pretty robust ceramics program, is what I'm going to call it. And, and that we don't use traditional tiki
actually
vessels.
we don't either. Ours
so
are like surfer girls, sharks.
Ours are all like sourced from vintage stores, and they are everything from little Easter chickies to roll top desks. And
I like ceramics program as a term for that. There was a place in San Francisco I used to go to ages ago that just served everything in like old chipped coffee mugs. Like just about everything. It was wonderful.
And it's similar to like the way that I think that the music functions in this space, is that sometimes those kind of tropical mugs, and I'm sure like the level of appropriation or cultural kind of confusion of this like Polynesian drink inside this like like mask, like with like, but like with an Asian adjacent continental name, like it's all very like it sometimes gives the cringe for me and many others, and especially in the market that we're in, it's not maybe the right voice that we want to be putting out there. So similar to the music, I think when we're selecting music in this space, I'm always thinking about what the song is dragging in with it, and do I want this in this space? And not even just the words of it, just the kind of cultural context of it. Like I'm, as someone that's not a young child anymore, I'm oftentimes checking like, oh, this song's great, but like, was this the trendy like song for the reels and on like TikTok in 2023? And then am I playing this great song, am I dragging in some kind of like
what's the association behind it?
Some kind of spoofy hot dog thing that everybody was doing last October, right? And that like that kind of cultural connection and finding songs that sound in a certain way that is contemporary or that feels like it's moving forward, but don't drag with it either the baggage of the artist that wrote it or the baggage of its cultural context, is a big part of when I'm trying to put together. And I do the best I can as someone, but we do as people that have been doing this for a while, we do enjoy the privilege of experience, and that it is, rather than I hear my friends that are, you know, in their 40s like me being like, oh, I don't know what's cool anymore. I always think that's kind of a false perspective, because, you know, it presumes that 18-year-olds are the ones running the fashion brands and that they're the ones working at the record labels, right? That ultimately your instincts and your experience are what make you capable of being able to hear something and parse whether or not this is just right now, or if this one is forever. Like, is this a song that will work for the next 2 weeks, or is this a song that we can keep in heavy rotation?
That could be timeless. That actually makes me think of, I had a conversation with someone who took a course about like kind of brain development, when what the brain attaches itself to, and talking about like musical cognizance essentially, and how for a lot of people they sort of stop at a certain point. And you see this, you see folks who their heyday of their music is like when they were in their 20s, and then they kind of drop off or they don't pay attention to it that much anymore. But there are lots of people who continue to stick with it. Are the things that they're loving in their 40s, do they have some sort of relation to something they loved in their 20s? But I've also seen, and I'm not gonna say blame, I think that like the internet and streaming services are part of this cause, that genres and eras are not as, to go back to what you're saying, for gatekeep, they're not siloed like they used to be. Like if in the, say in the 80s, you're listening to the classic radio station, it's playing Led Zeppelin, which had only come out maybe 10 years before. That's not really that old. And then if it's oldies, it's like Elvis,
Right.
But people are still listening to Elvis. And now that is like very old, legit old. But people aren't as concerned with the fact that it's like grandma, grandpa music potentially.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, on TikTok right now, there's the big thing with a Connie Francis song that's getting used all over the place.
Right.
It's a song from the early 60s or something like that. No one cares.
Nobody cares. And there's
great.
Yeah. And I think there's a like a freedom in kind of releasing yourself of the concern about whether or not
you
something
can only be goth, you can only be rock.
Yeah. And I think that like there is a kind of interesting concern right now about being seen as, the word like cringy or overly sincere and things like that. And I think that it is challenging to try and create environments where people feel comfortable expressing comfort and joy and not trying to manage their enthusiasm to be perceived as, too
whatever,
too happy,
cool,
too right. And that
if you're too cheerful, you're insincere,
yeah. And that you can kind of try and offer a a sound or an emotional palette for people to interact in, that that if you are intentional enough about it, you might be able to trick them into relaxing into being tacky for a minute. You know what I mean? Like suddenly accidentally dancing,
right? I love that.
And then realizing that nobody else around them's dancing, and then realize, oh wait, it's fine. I do a lot of chair dancing.
Yeah.
I suddenly danced in my chair and I survived to tell the tale. Look at me. Maybe it's not that big of a deal if I just
Are there any tracks in particular that you've brought into the bar that you're like kind of especially proud you brought in there? Like here's something that maybe it's an unexpected song that's in the bar that when it comes up, I mean, things when you see people react, like what do they chair dance to? Where you're like, yes, got them. They're here with us.
Yeah, there's some that are interesting. I'd say that I think there's several that are kind of the songs that other songs are kind of measured against. Like any remix of Only You is going to be
Only You, the Yaz song?
No,
which
Steve.
Only You?
Monte, is that his name?
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah, so like I'm trying to pull it out of my head. That's a great one too.
Well, there's a Lady Gaga song on her new album where she uses the Only You song. It's
really?
The base of it, and I was like, what is that?
Oh wow.
So it's fresh in my head right now.
Yeah, I think that I think that like Secret in the Dark, which is kind of an obvious one, Monica, that's like a very you'll hear that in a lot of bars, but it's a good one to kind of I'll tell you why it works for us and why it works oftentimes for many bars is it has a forward movement to it. It has a rhythm in it that's not too high, but it does feel as though it's danceable. It's interesting. It has a groove to it. It has a kind of inclusive energy to it in the sense that it sounds both new and old, right? And but it doesn't take up a lot of sonic space. Like it has drums, it has sounds, it has guitar, but it doesn't have a heavy pad underneath it. There's space to talk around that song without having to talk over it. So I'm always kind of trying to find songs that I feel have that kind of shape to them, but anything that maybe has like a rhythm guitar that's kind of pushing through it is not going to be the right fit for, at least for our space, for the way our speakers are set up, for the way that our space, I want people to feel like it's danceable, that it's fun, that it's upbeat, but it's not that it's not too much that they can't also just talk. And it also makes it so we can have it louder, and that the bath of the space can be more significant without it being
intrusive.
That's
a very tricky balance to maintain. Because a lot of times you feel assaulted, if you go in and it's too loud. And that's just because it's a wall of music that's coming at you, And again, like you were saying before, it depends on the space too. When we opened our space, one of the things we had to deal with was we had these solid, like cement walls. And it's a small space. So that means if we set the speaker up this way, it's going to bounce off that wall and bounce over this way. And during that, it's just bouncing across people. The people weren't absorbing the noise because the room wasn't set up for that. So we had to do some soundproofing and arrange things certain ways so that it wouldn't be punching people in the face when they walked in the door, no matter what it was. Because sometimes it's just like, it's loud, but it's not loud because the speaker's right here. It's loud because it's literally bouncing off the walls.
Yeah. I think also sometimes, and this is for me, I find male voices to be more obtrusive to my ear. Something either about the tone or any song that has music that's overly like narrative or directive, that they're telling you to do something or about what they're doing, although it doesn't necessarily mean that anyone's really listening to it, that it does feel like it's another character on top of the sound that is like trying to contribute to the conversation.
I was gonna say it's competing with the conversation you're already trying to have.
So that's why oftentimes remixes do really well for us, and we're able to also kind of sneak in. We can get it once we're full and rolling. We can get some. I feel like we can get some music playing in there that maybe like. I feel like being able to play Indie in our bar without fear or irony is a huge achievement for us, and that we're all very proud of it.
Nice.
It's not, you can't push play on that at 5 o'clock, but about 10:30 at night, you're going to be able to get away with it, and it's going to feel great, and people are going to feel like they're somewhere else. And that's so satisfying. I think that another one is that was on the original playlist that Nick and Seth put together, is called The Witness by Crazy P. And it's not obviously a bar song. It has a lot of talking in it, but the pad and the shape of it is oftentimes for me like a litmus test when I'm listening to other things, kind of saying like, does it fit in this? It also has the, when you're talking about having sonic space between the songs, you do end up finding your way over into more like electronic sounding music. And I was recently telling people that I was getting tired of how like beepy boppy the playlists were getting, because I was felt like we were going too far, and I was trying, and right now I'm on a quest to find things that function more like The Witness in a way where they still have that kind of shape to it, but there's a familiarity that maybe somebody here is touching an actual physical instrument playing this.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and no, hey, to like Polo and Pan, like pushing
Oh
their
yeah.
buttons,
No,
like good for
totally.
them. It's great.
Hmm.
I love it. It sounds great.
Hmm.
But I don't know if I want to only have
Yeah.
that
Oh,
kind of,
you can absolutely find it. You're totally gonna find it. And it's a nice balance. I've lived in that world before, so I feel that very
yeah,
much. Where
yeah,
you are like, this is good and it works, but and it's not, I think there's a subtlety to when there are actual instruments in there that comes up that people feel it and connect to it on a way that they're unaware of.
yeah,
Not that they're not connecting to the electronic stuff either, because that can also create a mood and
yeah,
create space and soundscapes and stuff. But you just balance it out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there's
Fun.
this article that I read in graduate school that I used a lot, but I think about all the time. I think about all the time, and I think about it in connection with this, about the kind of the like let me gather my thoughts real quick. Sure. So the author, her name is Eleanor Fuchs,
Mhm.
and she taught until maybe 2003. I think she passed away recently. I'm not sure, or maybe she retired. I'm not sure, but
Mhm.
she was a like a dramaturg
Okay.
and a theater history professor, and she wrote this article called Visit to a Small Planet. And it is
Mhm.
this really tidy essay that kind of helps people when they are approaching a script for a play,
Mhm.
kind of zoom back and you kind of imagine, what she suggests you do is you imagine the play as its own world,
Okay.
the piece as its own world. It's shrunk
Mhm.
down. You can hold it in your hand, and walks you through the process of observing um, the people
Life
in
on that
it.
planet.
Yes, the way they walk. Are they walking people or are they running people? Are they inside people or are they outside people? You also kind of look at the rules and systems. Who's welcome on
Mhm.
this planet? Who's marginalized?
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of the other ones, like uh oh yeah, like what they hold, right? How much, what are the objects and props in a play? It'd be obvious, like, oh, in a kitchen sink play, they're, holding domestic life, right? These people
Mhm.
walk around this planet, they walk around this planet holding pots, whereas in maybe in the histories, Shakespeare's histories, they, walk around holding swords, right?
Mhm.
You're
Mhm.
learning about the people in it.
Yeah.
And then as you kind of end up kind of observing this planet, and it's not in an and when you apply it to real life, right? If you
Mhm.
apply these kind of questions to real life, like, there's a moment where you go like, oh, am I like, is this like a profiling situation? It's not. You're trying
Mhm.
to
You're understanding that community,
yeah, it is also a
Yeah.
constructed world, right?
Uh-huh.
As us as people that work in hospitality, we have more control than we realize over the
Yeah.
way that our world is constructed, what kinds of people it, right?
Mhm.
And that we have a great gift of being in the bar industry, that there's wonderful people in it. There's
Mhm.
wonderful people in it. And that the kind of grail of every theater director or even band, right? Musician being that, like, I'm going to do this play and all I want in the whole world is at the end of it, the people that their catharsis, they bust out the doors, they feel alive, they look out
Yes.
at Broadway, they're like, ah,
Yeah,
here we
right?
are, all of us, we're here. I feel like, do you want to go somewhere? Let's get
Yeah.
pie, let's go. Like, that's all you want. And the thing that we do in hospitality is I don't do that, I do that every day. I do
Hmm.
that every day, and I don't just do it once, I do it as much as I can
Multiple
possibly
times.
do.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, that the success of that moment is that if this person feels more a part of humanity, more a part of themselves, like
Hmm.
more a part of the relationship that they're a part of, or just this room or the city or anything, when they leave, then like, awesome, great,
When.
like, did it. But in theater, it was just like it was a whale, it was a white
Hmm.
whale, you
Yeah.
know.
Wow. So this sounds like a great place to wrap everything up because it's like it sounds like you've been able to bring so much learning from other what is the word I'm looking for? Other mediums in a sense,
Yeah,
that you've been so emotionally involved with and you now are in this place where you're getting to apply. so many of these lessons and so many of these things to this amazing experience that feels very small. But being in this industry, like you said, someone goes in, they enjoy that space, they have the nice cocktail, they're communing with people by meeting new people, talking with their friends, or maybe they're communing by people just by being in the space and just kind of like feeling everyone around them. And then they walk out and they're like, that was great.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, isn't
So
it?
you've done the whole thing. It's lovely. I love it. I was just talking with a friend about that last night. How sometimes just sitting there and being in that space and just feeling everyone around you, the energy around you is all you need sometimes.
Yeah.
Just to walk out and do that.
Especially in a world where things feel increasingly complex and isolated.
Yeah.
But like we don't have to apologize for still protecting space for people to just kind of feel
just be
alive and present. Right.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful. And
that's
so
amazing.
Important. So
important. I love it. Thank you so much.
Of course.
So I think now that's usually when I ask if there's any socials that people should follow, be it for you, be it just for the bar, all those kinds of things.
Oh, just the bar.
Good. There you go.
Soon PDX. And yeah, that's it. Just on Instagram. Yeah, awesome. That'll do great for us. I love that.
Okay,
Check
cool.
us out.
I love that. Absolutely. I can't wait to get out there. I think my partners will be up there for Portland Cocktail Week. So I'll have to make sure that they stumble over. I know. I think it's soon. I think it's soon. Thank you so much, Alex, for your time and for just sharing all of this. It was a really amazing conversation. I love being a nerd about music stuff.
I hope you come up
deep
and
all that.
Hang out sometime.
I know.
I
would love to.
Drink together sometime. That'd be fun.
Easy. All right, don't go away.
I can only imagine if the two of us, Alex and I, are sitting in a bar having drinks and talking about music. You thought this was long? We would be talking probably until they kicked us out of the spot. It was a really wonderful talk with Alex. Thank you so much for making the time to chat with me and share your thoughts and views with the Music and Booze listeners. She also has a playlist to share with you, and there are all kinds of liner notes to that. So if you go to Spotify, the Music and Booze page on Spotify, you can see the playlist. But for all of the liner notes and thoughts that went behind the tracks, head over to the Facebook page, that is Music and Booze on Facebook, and there are all kinds of notes that you will get a kick out of to read on that social media bit. Speaking of social media, you can follow Too Soon at Too Soon PDX. Can't follow Alex, you'll have to go to Portland and go to the bar, and you can meet and chat with her there. Thank you for tuning in to our barroom chats on Music and Booze with Mo. For more info about today's guest, or if you want to connect with me, check out my Facebook page, Mo Herms. Please subscribe to the podcast and feel free to tell all your friends about it. While you're there, give the show a rating and a review. It really helps to get the word out. If you want to hear the playlists our guests have curated, search She Be Mo on Spotify, SHEBMO. Find pictures of the interviewees and the cool stuff they create on the Music and Booze with Mo Instagram account. Lower your expectations and join us at the bar. Till next time, cheers.